Greetings to all of you. I want to talk today about the new moon on July 24th that I think is supporting us in beginning to tap into the creation of the new paradigms of the Aquarian age. But it's continuing to guide us in this rapid time of transition and transformation that we've been in, particularly since we've come out of the Kali Yuga, that time of our lower level of consciousness, and are now being rapidly supported in healing, clearing our blocks, opening to higher consciousness, and moving in to the new paradigms of this new age. But let's look at this very powerful new moon. Let's look at the chart. I'm pulling up the chart this time with some of the Kuiper Belt objects and dwarf planets because they are playing such a powerful role in the time of this new moon. But what's most significant is the new moon at 2 degrees of Leo is exactly opposite Pluto at 2 degrees of Aquarius. And what's very meaningful is that this new moon is in tight aspects to all three transpersonal planets. Uranus, that's now moved into Gemini, is in a tight sextile with the new moon. Neptune and Saturn, in their conjunction in these early degrees of Aries, are in a trine with the new moon, and Pluto exactly opposite this new moon. The new moon in Leo, the energy of fire, the energy of what I'd like to talk about first is how I see this new moon giving us messages for the collective shifts that we're in. And then I want to talk more in depth about how we can work with this new moon in our own individual process in as conscious of a way as possible. But from that collective level, I think it is very significant, as I said, that this new moon is in interaction with all three transpersonal planets, which are guiding us collectively in this accelerated time of transformation. Uranus calling us into truth and justice. Neptune and Saturn asking us to dissolve those out of balance forms from the age of Aries, to dissolve ego consciousness, to be open to moving into new forms that integrate spirituality and how we are living in a practical way in this world. And Pluto guiding us into the Aquarian age. Remember that it was as we moved into the age of Leo 12,000 years ago that we started that path of descending consciousness. Remember, in the Hindu Yuga cycle, we go through 12,000 years of ascending consciousness, then 12,000 years of descending consciousness. In the age of Leo, we moved into what we in the West call the Silver Age. This was the time where we started into that descending consciousness. And now, as we're moving into the Aquarian Age, we're really moving into ascending consciousness, the Dwapara Yuga, that time where we really begin to reclaim what we've forgotten, to move out of these paradigms of corruption, power over, imbalance, back into harmony, back into higher consciousness. I discussed in my recent full moon video that that full moon was a part of a grand square. If you remember, the full moon was with the sun at 18 degrees of Cancer, opposite the moon at 18 degrees of Capricorn, in a grand square with Chiron and the asteroid Atlantis. This new moon is still part of that grand square but now an out of sign grand square, but it's within 5 degrees of Chiron and Atlantis. So it's still activating that theme of how do we look collectively at the lessons from the fall of Atlantis 12,000 years ago, at the time of the movement into the age of Leo, that was about our beginning to get caught in ego consciousness, in greed, in misuse of technology, in power over, such that we went through that cataclysmic time of the Younger Dryas period, the earth changes, the flooding, the loss of much of humanity and the species on the planet, the cataclysmic reset. And Sedna, now also in a sextile with the new moon, right next to Uranus, is saying, remember the truth of that. Uranus, remember. Uranus is also our long-term memory. Can we remember the lessons now encoded in stone in the Great Pyramid at Göbekli Tepe, reminding us of the dangers as humanity of getting caught in identification with ego, getting caught in imbalance, getting caught in power over paradigms, and that kind of destruction, corruption, greed. This past full moon, this new moon are saying, do not go down that destructive path. Heal the ways you've been out of balance. Heal those out of balanced paradigms that we're still caught in from the age of Aries. And remember, it was midway through the age of Aries that we reached our lowest level of consciousness in the Kali Yuga. So this grand square is saying heal. Listen to the lessons from the past. Be aware of this larger context that you're in collectively, this critical moment in the precessional cycle where we're emerging out of the Kali Yuga. We're moving into higher consciousness. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. Remember the ancient wisdom that can guide you through this threshold so that we are moving into more balance and harmony and not staying caught on the destructive path of power over, abuse of power, greed, corruption, destruction. It is highly significant that at the time of this new moon, so many of the Kuiper Belt objects are actively involved in this new moon. Varuna is conjunct the new moon, Haumea squaring the new moon, Makemake in a sextile, Salacia in a trine. Remember that these Kuiper Belt objects are almost all named after indigenous creation deities. All of these Kuiper Belt objects actively channeling their energy into this new moon are reminding us of the indigenous wisdom and what the ancient cultures knew about the importance of living in right relationship with the sacredness of the life around us, living in harmony and in balance. This is the crucial threshold point we're in as humanity. And what path will we choose collectively? It's also very significant that this Kuiper Belt object, Varuna in particular, is conjunct the new moon. That is named after a Hindu deity associated with oceans, water, sky. This was an ancient Hindu god who was viewed as holding the cosmic balance, ensuring the balance of the cosmos, holding those energies of justice and truth to be keeping us aligned with cosmic and natural law, and the god of punishment for when we got out of balance with natural law and the cosmic order. It's interesting that it's very associated with oceans and water and the consciousness of water and the memories the oceans hold to bring us back into connection with our source, with our origins, with how to be in balance. But it's also interesting that it's in the sign of Leo, a fire sign, next to this powerful new moon in Leo, ruled by the sun. And we are experiencing more and more solar energies, solar storms, geomagnetic storms that are coming to the earth. As Stephen Burns talks about in his videos, these energies are electrifying the earth and infusing the earth with these energies that then can activate earthquakes, volcanic activity. And he's, in a brilliant way, been looking at the swarm of earthquakes that have been happening along the Pacific Rim of Fire, and how there is the high possibility that some of these underwater volcanoes that are beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean can be activated by these geomagnetic storms and cause not only earthquakes, but volcanic eruption, tsunamis, activation of major earth changes. And as many of you know, there are prophecies about the possibility of a major tsunami in Japan in July that most likely would be activated by earthquakes or a volcanic eruption off the coast of Japan. So it's significant that Varuna is calling us into paying attention to how we collectively are coming back into balance, or facing these earth changes as a wake-up call and as a corrective to tell us we need to let go of these out of balance paradigms and come back into connection with the earth and sky and right relationship with all of life. So this new moon, in a powerful way, is a wake-up call for us collectively. Coming back to the chart, without all the Kuiper Belt objects and some of the dwarf planets, newly discovered dwarf planets, I want to look at what this means for us personally. How do we work with these energies? First of all, as we're listening to the guidance coming from the Earth, coming from the planets and stars, we can be in this shift out of the imbalanced patterns of the past, moving into the new paradigms and holding that energy in the collective to emanate that healing energy and higher consciousness to support the shifts in the collective. And I so appreciate how, as a community, we really hold those energies, that higher consciousness together and emanate that. I also think that this energy of Leo is calling us into our hearts, calling us to step out of our minds and really live from our hearts. It is through our hearts that we can open to that unity consciousness. It is through our hearts that we can be opening to higher consciousness. It's interesting that Mercury has gone retrograde as of July 19th and will be retrograde until August 9th. And remember that Mercury retrograde is calling us out of left brain ways of thinking into trusting more those right brain ways of knowing, trusting our intuition, being more reflective and less analytical. So again, it's saying step out of the idealization of the logical, analytical, left brain ways of knowing of our modern cultures. Take this time to be more reflective, to allow yourself to turn inward at this time of the new moon. Connect with your heart. Let the energies of the sun activate your heart and your pineal gland, and that way in which you, in your own process, are moving into higher consciousness. And that square with Chiron helps us heal what would block us from opening more fully to that higher consciousness. And Pluto is retrograde now, as is Saturn and Neptune, meaning all those energies are guiding us to reflect more on their meaning for us, not necessarily to be in action with them, but in a more reflective process with them. And Pluto in Aquarius is supporting us in reflecting on the meaning for us individually of moving into the Aquarian age, of moving into these paradigms that are out of the patterns of the past and are more about collaboration, community, openness to diversity, justice, compassion, rebalancing left brain, right brain ways of knowing, rebalancing the energies of the sacred masculine and sacred feminine within us. How are we each aligning with those paradigms of the Aquarian age? And part of what's beautiful about integrating the polarity of Leo and Aquarius is we are meant, as we're moving into the Aquarian paradigm, to also be honoring our own unique self-expression. Leo, what is our unique creativity coming from our hearts that we are meant to bring into the world? What is the light of the sun trying to be in its own expression through our being? To be then fostering, encouraging these paradigms of the Aquarian age. We're meant to be in our sovereignty of self, our unique creativity and self-expression to support being in sacred community with each other, to honor our being a part of cosmic consciousness together. But we each are a fractal expression of cosmic consciousness, meant to find that spark of creativity, our unique gifts, to bring them out into the world. So I encourage you at the time of this new moon, take time to meditate, do a fire ceremony, tune in to what do you need to release to be more in alignment with your heart, to be more in alignment with your soul self. And what is the unique creativity that you are meant to give birth to express who you uniquely are and bring that out to be in service to others. It's interesting that the Sabian symbol for 2 degrees of Leo is about realizing that our individual actions and expression have larger implications and impacts. That as we honor our own sense of self and our own unique gifts, and allow ourselves to be in our own creative expression, not constrained by social standards or others' expectations, then we can live from our hearts with courage to be fully expressing those gifts. Your creative gifts are needed in the world in this time. And I think this new moon is a time to look at, are we on the path that lights our inner fire? Remember, this new moon is also squaring Vesta, which is about what are the sacred inner fires within you. And allow yourself at the time of this new moon to reflect on, are you living your soul's path and purpose? Are you allowing yourself to express your unique gifts in the world? And if not, take time at this new moon to do a fire ceremony and release those external expectations, those social pressures, your own fears or blocks that hold you back from who you uniquely are. And remember that Uranus, for us individually, calls us into the truth of who we are, our own authenticity. Chiron helps us heal the blocks to be more fully aligned with our unique self. Aries, Neptune, and Saturn are helping us dissolve ego consciousness, but align with soul consciousness to bring it into form. As Richard Tarnas said so eloquently in the interview that I did recently with him, that combination of Neptune and Saturn can be about soul making, how we align with our soul self, bring it into form, Saturn. And again, Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is the planet of alchemy, helping us burn away what blocks us from being in our true selves, to be able to be in our self-expression, to bring it into community, bring it out in the world. So as we're in this accelerating time of change and transformation, we're also called to listen to our hearts, to tune into our inner knowing, to be guided by what lights our sacred inner fires, and truly step into our unique gifts to bring them out into the world in our own self-expression that is then enlivening us, allowing us to be aligned with our soul selves and our path and purpose in this lifetime, and is the way in which we're emanating that energy into the collective to be of service in the world with who we uniquely are. Let's look now at where this new moon is in the sky. So in the chart, the sun and new moon are at 2 degrees of Leo. Here in the sky at the time of the new moon, you can see that they're moving from the stars of Gemini into the stars of Cancer. They're in this in-between space in the sky. I think it's significant to honor when we're looking at the sun, the moon, the planets in the sky, in their movement along the ecliptic, that sometimes they're in transition from the stars of one constellation to the other. In our tropical zodiac, they clearly just move from one sign to the next because we have the signs divided into these equal 30-degree parts in the chart. But the sky is more complex than that. And some constellations are larger, some are smaller. Cancer is one of the smaller constellations. But here we have the sun and moon in their transition. And I think part of the message of that is, as we're in this accelerated time of change, that we need to honor this is a liminal time where we often feel in between the patterns of the past, not fully clear what the paradigms are that we're moving into. In our own individual lives, we can feel more and more that need to release these ways that we've been out of balance in our lives, or not fully in alignment with our true selves or with our own unique gifts. And this new moon is also saying, trust being in the liminal time, being in the mystery, being in the not knowing, and you will be guided in how to move forward into your true self. It's very significant that Uranus and Sedna are still here by the stars of the Pleiades, close to Aldebaran, guiding us to be supported by the energies of the Pleiades in this larger shift, but also to align with those energies of Aldebaran, the eye of the bull, guiding us to live with integrity in who we are, guiding us to be in our inner truth. So let this new moon be a time for you of tuning into your heart and allowing yourself to listen to your own inner knowing, to be in a time of reflection at the time of this new moon, to honor that the new moon itself is a liminal time. It's when we've ended one lunar cycle. We're moving into a new one, but we are in that death rebirth, that space between. The new moon actually is activating the seed, the birthing of that new lunar cycle. But the day before and the day of the new moon and the day after, the moon is actually invisible. It's actually so under the beams of the sun that it doesn't appear in the sky. So it's guiding us to be in that inward time, to be in the mystery, in the in-between time, the time of healing and transformation, the time when we get guidance through meditation, through our dreams, through doing ceremony, through opening to the guidance from spirit, to taking time to listen to our higher self. So allow yourself to tune into your heart, to come to center. I encourage you to use that medicine wheel journey and meditation that I put out in my recent video to allow yourself to be more and more aligned with your heart, with your soul self, to open to who you truly are. What are your unique gifts? And how can you bring that creativity out into the world in a visible way? Allow this to seed those energies for you or support you in trusting how you can step out with your own creative expression, to know that it is a crucial part of this larger transformation that we're in, that we each have that personal responsibility to be in the truth of who we are, to be in alignment with our true self, to be in right relationship with all that is around us, so that we are coming back into balance and being then able to emanate that energy into the collective to support the collective consciousness waking up, coming back into balance, coming back in to the gifts of creativity and co-creating in community, to be forging a new world together, to be releasing these out of balance paradigms of the past, to be letting go of ego consciousness and that longing to compete or to be the best or to have power over or to be caught in greed or corruption or destruction. This is a time where we each can come to our hearts, let those fires of the sun and the energy of Varuna, the Hindu deity, guide us into balance, into right harmony, to then be creating from that space to bring our unique gifts into the world. And then we're in that sovereignty of self to be in the sanctity of community, expressing our unique gifts, to be co-creating a new world, to be in alignment with cosmic consciousness. Again, I am grateful for how we as a community are connecting from our hearts and supporting each other in co-creating this new earth, to be in alignment with these new paradigms, to be opening to the joy of that. Remember that Leo is about the energy of joy that comes when we live from our hearts and from our true selves and the expression of our unique gifts and self-expression. May we feel energized by that fire, the support of the sun, the support of the energies of the earth, And these Kuiper Belt objects that are reminding us of who we are, where we've come from, how we can open to that ancient wisdom and that indigenous knowledge to come back into balance, to come back into higher consciousness, to be living from the joy of co-creating a new world together that is aligned with peace and love, justice and truth, harmony and balance. In the midst of the chaos of the world, in the midst of the storminess of these times, may we hold that hope and faith in what is emerging as we move into this new age, as we move into this new processional cycle, as we allow the currents of the earth and sky to carry us into higher consciousness, to clear the blocks, to help us heal what needs to be healed, to come back into that joy of living from our hearts with courage in sacred relationship with all that is, in right harmony with the earth and sky and cosmos. Blessed be, and blessings and love to all of you.